As Anna said, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the participants of this second webinar of the Proud to Share Week. We started yesterday with our first three speakers, and this afternoon
la prima serata questo pomeriggio
speakers coming from biosphere reserves and geoparks all over the world. My name is Francesca Bampa, I'm Project Officer of the UNESCO Regional Bureau for Science and Culture in Europe, and I will be guiding you through this webinar dedicated to accessibility and inclusivity, nature for all, and I will guide you through our speakers. So let's make a little travel. Let's travel not so far from where I'm sitting. I'm sitting in the Alpi Ledrensi and Giudicaria Biosphere Reserves in Italy. And very close by, there is the Adamello Brenta Geopark. Our first speaker will be Dr. Roberta Carè, which is working in the site managing our authority of the Geopark. So Roberta, thank you very much for being with us today, and the floor is yours. Please tell us how your Geopark is working for proposing accessibility and inclusivity to the Geopark for everybody. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Francesca. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to share my presentation so that you can see a bit about our national natural park. So here we are. Everyone can see the presentation? Yeah, see. Okay. As Francesca said, we are Adamello Brenta Natural Park, and we are also recognized as Geopark. We are located in Trentino Alto Adige, actually in Trentino, not Alto Adige, and we are the largest territory as natural park in Trentino. There are other two parks with us, the Parco Nazionale dello Stelvio, as you can see on the bottom, and on the right, the Parco Naturale Paneveggio Palle di San Martino. We are also part of the Biosphere Reserve, Alpi Ledrensi and Giudicaria, the one that organized our webinar and the Proud to Share Week. Our area is covers about 625 kilometers square, and the lowest point it's found in Val di Non in an apple orchard, and the highest one is Presanella Summit, that is known as the Trentino's Roof. Our territory is interesting by 30 municipalities that takes active part in the life of our natural park, and in this slide you can see all the municipalities that are interesting. We are working with the Varrendena municipalities, but also Giudicaria Esteriori, Val del Chiese, and Val di Sole and Val di Non. We are recognized as a geopark, but also as part of Man and Biosphere certification. Our park has been recognized by UNESCO since 2008 as a part of the geopark, as you can find in our area two different kinds of rocks. On one part, we have the Brenta Dolomites that are also UNESCO heritage and are famous for the red rock known as Dolomia, the one you can find also in Val di Fassa or in other Dolomitic places. Instead of, on the other part, the Adamello Presanella, we have tonalites, that is a magmatic rock similar to granites, and it's really well known for its geomorphical and geolithical features. We are also part of the Biosphere Reserve. To be honest, over a third of the surface of the biosphere is occupied by our areas and by the Nature 2000 network, that is an Italian network that is founded by European project and fundings. And the two differences, and we say before, are the fact that in the same territory we can find these two kind of different rocks, and this is something magic for all the scientists and all the passionate of mountains and nature. I don't want to be annoying, but just to know, we have about 1,400 species of flora, About 135 are endangered species, and about the fauna instead, we have a different kind of animals like chamois and golden eagles that are really, really rare. Our park has been statuted by a law in 1988 with Paneveggio Pali di San Martino, and it has three main purposes: the promotion of the scientific resources, the promotion and the enhancement of natural environmental characteristics of our area, and a social use of our environmental assets. And is this third purpose that is linked to the presentation of our webinar. But which is the core, the main theme of our presentation? What do we do with the park as a park to be really accessible? There is a quote that is really famous about nature, and we are used to use it when we present our activities and our efforts in what is accessibility and safety in a natural areas. And is everybody needs beauty as well as bread, places to play where nature can heal and give strength to the body and soul in equal measure. So this is what nature can do to everyone, but we want that this can be appreciated by really everyone. So that's the reason why since 2015 we started to create a park that's not only a natural park, but is an accessible park. The main activities we have done since 2015, in fact, are the creation of barred path, the organization of training courses to our internal guides, the organization and creation of a sustainable and accessible mobility system, the creation of infrastructure, and the awareness and sensibilization of local stakeholders, and also the improvement of our website and app in order to be reached by everyone. We have a lot to do, still a lot to do. We are not accessible, 100% accessible, but we started in the same time, and at the same time we want also to keep improving it. In order to show you our effort, we would like to present 5 projects we have done that are related to the concept of accessibility. We consider accessibility to our areas one of the most important tasks of our park up to now, together with scientific research and also education, because education and accessibility are on the same binary. We have to educate our children, our local people to accessibility, and so that also infrastructures and hotels and bed and breakfast can offer an accessible offer to everyone. The main path we have that are accessible to people with disabilities or people that are blind or people that move with wheelchairs are the one in Tovel. Lake Tovel is one of the most enhanced spots in the park and is located in Val di Non. Then we have the one in Molbeno, the one at Margaritorta, the Amolacqua path in Val Nabrone, the Nardis Fall in Val Genova, and a path for everyone in Nudole in Val d'Aone. The one we want to introduce you is the oldest one, but maybe the most furnished, and it's one path for everyone, and it's located in Val d'Aone in the Adamello Presanella part, so not in the Brenta one. As you can see from the picture, you can see that this is different from the typical red Brenta's rocks we are used to see. A path for all has been created in 2017, and it's, as you can see from this picture, there are some panels that are written not only in Italian but also in English, and also with the Braille code. The way of the text is a bit bigger than the common way of writing it, also for people that are not blind but maybe has troubles in looking and see around. Then, as you can see from the other 2 pictures, the path is constructed with material that is environmental environmentally friendly, but at the same time is perfect for people who has trouble in walking or maybe has to walk with a wheelchair. In order to promote and enhance this project, we took part to what is known as the Accessible Beauty Project. The Accessible Beauty Project started after the building of this path in province of Trento from an association that decided to render all the spots in Trentino, mountain and ambiental spots in Trentino, accessible to everyone. In order to render also our park accessible to everyone, we decided to take part to this project, and we create other footpaths on the same in the same manner of this one. But with this project, with the Nudole project, we won also an award, the FIAB Award in Rome, as one of the most important projects we did for accessibility. Every year, this Federer Trek Association organized in June some trekking experience for people with disability. Some years ago, we decided to participate as well to this initiative, and we asked to a local cooperative, that is ANFAS cooperative, to take part with us and our guide in these days. These days are properly for people that are blind or that cannot work by themselves, and it's created to link all the association around Italy that are interested in the aim and in the area of accessibility. With Federer Trek, we create what is known as the Path of Accessible Nature in Nudole. And we had a group of young guys that managed to experience a full day into the nature with our internal guides. These are some pictures. The guy you can see here is our internal guides, and they are in fact experiencing the Braille code and the fact that this picture you see are created to be touchable. So if you touch them, you can feel what is in the picture, and even if you cannot see it, you can touch it and understand. So we would like to create a different way to communicate, not only with the common sense, so not only towards seeing or hearing, but also through touching and through creating a new language to everyone and for everyone. The other important project we have is the Sustainable Mobility Project. We do it each summer, starting from 2003, in the 7 most important and beautiful valleys we have. The aim of the project is not only to make the valley accessible. I mean, we have some areas that are reserved for people with disabilities, but it also creates to render our area sustainable, because we have an afflux of people each summer that is unbelievably high. So we have to try to make it lower and lower, and also to enhance the meaning of public transport. The use of public transport, in fact, can help not only to sustain and to protect our territory and our natural beauty, but also to help people to access to valleys without their private car, or if they cannot drive, with a proper bus. In fact, starting from 3 years ago, we started to ask to the bus driver to give us buses that are that allows people with disability to move without problems. So they are people with disability friendly, we call it like this. The other important project we have is the San Vili Path from Spazio to Castelcondino. I don't want to spend too much time about this, because I know that tomorrow there is a meeting, and this will be one of the core themes of the meeting. but this is really important for us because it's organized with an association of local association and also with Sarka River Park and another enterprise. In October, a group of 15 people, there will be blind people, but also people with real disability, moving disabilities, and they will do 3 days hiking from Spliazzo to Castelcondino. So we want to link our Parco Naturale to Trento, so the main city of Trentino. During these 3 days, there will be activities and events open to everybody. So the group will work during the day, but during the afternoon and the evening, there will be people that are invited to share their experience. And so we would like that also local people will take part in this and help us to share and aware about accessibility, because that's what we need here. Another really important project to us is this quality park accessibility award. As a natural park, we recognize to our infrastructure, local infrastructure like hotels and bed and breakfast, these brands that is a quality park certification. Only the infrastructure that offer activities in respect of some natural criteria can have this recognized. And the brand we give to the structure are made by the ANFAS Association. The ANFAS Association is the same association we organize the Accessible Nature Path with, and we keep cooperating with them because we want to be sure that everything or most of the activities we do is always connected with accessibility and inclusion. Another important...
5 minutes.
I have to run, I'm sorry. Another really important infrastructure of the park are the park houses. They are all built in respecting the safety and accessible law that are on the national and provincial territory. They are located all over our territory, and if you enter these houses, you can experience the park. What I mean, they are dedicated to different themes like fauna and flora, and if you enter like the flora house, you can see all the flowers, all the plants that are presented in our territory. So also for people that cannot walk maybe into nature or at high altitude, they can enter here and experience what park means. But this cannot be possible without our training courses. Starting from 2017, we organized 3 different courses. The last one was taken last year in 2021 during the pandemic. And they are all for our internal guides, and they are linked to different themes like the Dolomites from a social connection or the accompanying of people with hearing disabilities in sport. And the last one, the accessible tourism in protected area, was mainly focused on the theme we are discussing today about. And for the future, where are we aiming for? As I told you before, there is so much to do for us as well. We have just started to be inclusive and to be accessible, but we don't want to stop. And that's the reason why we took part at these virtual tours. We create a virtual tour around our territory. So we choose 3 points that can be selected by everyone and correspond to the third major interest park sport. The last one is the Patascos Nambino Paffi Madonna di Campiglio. This is quite famous, and maybe you have already heard about it. And it's still a work in progress. We started with it in 2018 and we are still working on it. And as you can see from this picture, before and after, we are creating an accessible path that leads to the Nambino Lake. That is a lake located at about 1,700 meters high above the sea level. This is a bit what our park is doing for accessibility. We know that is not enough, but we are trying to do it. And I hope to be clear. And if you have any question, we will see after. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you very much, Roberta, on time. And you did you overwhelmed us with all your activities you're doing and activities that you will be doing in the future. So I'm sure participants that joined the webinar, I have to welcome the participant that joined through like mid of your presentation. So welcome to the second webinar of the Proud to Share Week organized by the Alpi Ledensi Giudicaria. This webinar is registered, so you will have the opportunity to watch it again later, and it will be uploaded in the website of the Biosphere Reserve. And there is interpretation, so for Italians, no worry, you can go on the sidebar and tick the button with interpretation, so you will have Italian translation. And again, I have to say that Roberta presented the activities that they do in the Geopark of Adamello Brenta, and I'm sure you have a lot of questions. So there is an option in the sidebar, question and answer. Please write there your question. We will go through all the questions towards the end. So after our next two speakers will speak, we'll have time, half an hour time for question and answer and discussion. And I will invite you, if you wish, to open your camera, open your mic, and pose your question yourself, if you wish. If not, I can read your question. This will be a possibility towards the end. Now, we make a travel. We travel up north. And we are gonna travel in Sweden, and we are gonna visit the archipelago Blekinge. We have with us today Simone Witzel, which is a project leader of the managing authority of the site, that will show us how they have their concept of accessibility and inclusivity for all that might be seen also from a different angle and perspective compared to what Roberta Carre just showed us to us. So Simone, thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Francesca. It's really an honor that we can be part of this webinar, and I'm very grateful for this. Hello to everyone. My name is Simone Wenzel, and I am from the Blekinge Archipelago Biosphere Reserve in southern Sweden. I will just share my screen. Yes. See. Can you see my presentation? Yes, great. Yes, as Francesca said, my presentation will be from a bit a different angle, in the sense of that I would like to present to you how you can get started if you have not started to work with accessibility. So we have actually started from zero in some ways. So I would like to show you our process of how we made our Biosphere Reserve more accessible. And that is by the project that we call ARC 56, which are connected coastal trails in our Biosphere Reserve. But I would like to first present you what I want to talk about today. I will start with our vision, because I think it's very important to start with a thought of why did we actually do this? And then I will tell you a bit about the process, how did we create that accessibility for everyone, and the result, where are we today? But first of all, where are we in this beautiful world? So you see I'm sitting in the north of Europe, in Sweden. And on the next page, you see a little map on the left corner. So that is Sweden, the little light blue area. And the orange dot, that is where we are, in the southeast of Sweden. And if you look on the picture, there's a lot of water in our Biosphere Reserve. So actually 3/4 of our Biosphere Reserve are water, as you see on the little map there in the left corner. So that is also why we really are focused on the Baltic Sea in all our work for sustainability. And I think that area is really, really beautiful. I'm of course a little bit biased, but I actually am not born here. I come from South Germany, and I moved here because I think it's so beautiful. So I think I can actually say that. And our culture is, as all Biosphere Reserves have it, very unique. It is those typical red little houses, as many of you think of maybe when they think of Sweden. But also we have the naval port of Karlskrona, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site within the Biosphere Reserve. So we have 2 UNESCO sites here. And also we have the old boat building culture and even the small scale fishing culture still here. And then when it comes to our nature, it is very unique that our hardwood forests grow all the way to the shore. Usually on islands, you often find pine forests and others, but here you have a lot of oak trees, for example, and the water is very shallow. We have thousands of islands there in our biosphere reserve, and that is a perfect breeding ground for all different types of animal and very high biodiversity also. But our question was 10 years ago when we started to become a biosphere reserve, how should people actually find that is so unique? How can they find those beautiful spots in nature? And how can they find this special culture and not just drive by our biosphere reserve? So it's actually like 3 municipalities and the whole area is the biosphere reserve. So our vision was, how can we make our biosphere reserve and its nature and culture more accessible? There was a lot of challenges in our biosphere reserve. For example, young people were moving away. They all were moving to the bigger cities. Our companies, especially tourist companies, are not so sustainable. It's very short season only. They're only working in summer. They cannot survive the whole year. The islands, which have before been populated, they are growing over with trees and bushes because not so many people are living in the archipelago anymore. And we don't have so many visitors and not so many cows and animals grazing there. We have also this cultural heritage that I said, for example, the old boat building with wooden boats. It's also disappearing slowly, and the Baltic Sea is highly polluted, as everybody knows. And then we have, of course, this underlying climate crisis. So out of that, we were thinking, of course, we need more sustainability here, but we actually also need more people in order to tackle our problems. And we said our challenge is, can we actually do this in both, to get more people here and do it in a sustainable way? And that is where this project ARC56 came in, and we started working with it in 2017, the connected coastal trails through our biosphere reserve. And our vision was not just to make another few more hiking paths, but to really aim big and become a very attractive but also sustainable outdoor destination that is well known in Europe. So that's why we created this ARC56 that we call a network of different sustainable paths, products and companies throughout all of our Blekinge Archipelago Biosphere Reserve. So here in the background, you see a map over the Biosphere Reserve, and those trails should in some way connect the whole coast and should make it easy for people to discover our Biosphere Reserve in different ways, in sustainable ways, by walking, by biking, by sailing, and with a kayak. And then we have those hubs, which is those green little dots that you see. And that is the spots where you find service, accommodation, information, and then you can get out into the wild again. So as I said, there is 4 different kinds of paths. It's sailing path all over the coast, hiking, different hiking trails. We have biking path linking the whole biosphere together, and the kayaking. So the process, how did we get started? The most important thing I would say was from the beginning to bring all people together. So it was really a participatory approach. We were working with all municipalities that are in the region. We were working with the local tourist office, the Visit Blekinge. We were working with the region, but most of all, we were also working with local companies, local organizations, and local people. That was very important for us. And then we were thinking, okay, how should we tackle this? And then we said we need a very clear structure. So it's actually quite clear when you think about what you need in order to make it accessible. You need an infrastructure that is accessible and some maps, of course. But you also need the companies. You really need to, because they provide all the service, the guide tours, the accommodation, the restaurants. And we need to, of course, talk about it and market it, and then build a stable organization for the whole thing. And I think that is what biosphere reserves are really good at, to bring all of those individuals and different parts together. So starting with the infrastructure, we were identifying the nicest paths and made them more accessible. So we didn't create new paths, we were starting with what we have, and we looked, okay, which ones do we actually really want to present? Because sometimes you come somewhere and there's thousands of different trails and you don't know where to start, and some of them maybe not so good anymore. So we were talking with the municipalities, which paths do you really want to promote? And then we were looking at, okay, how can we make it easier? So what you see here on the left is actually not a hiking path, it's actually a kayaking path. So we have an area there that is a bit harder for the kayak because there's higher waves and it's a bit open sea. So we made a little bridge for beginners. They can just carry over their kayak to the next little archipelago that is more protected. So in that way, there can be more people kayaking even if they're not experienced. But as I said, we were only using existing paths. We didn't want to make it even bigger for ourselves, but really looking at what we have, but improving the infrastructure to ensure high quality and easy accessibility. So with visitors, we knew nowadays they really want to find it easy. They don't just want to have maps, they want to have clear markings. So we created a new marking system where we have the ARC 56 signs everywhere, but we're using the existing markings and just add that so they know they are still part of the ARC 56. And then we made those big information signs that you see there on the left. There you can find on the hubs with a detailed map, and then you can find smaller information maps all over the area. And then we developed also new maps, and we were working with a company that really was focusing on making maps easy and to just really highlight the things that are important and not everything. So for example, here you see the map that you would find on the spot in one of our hubs in Järnavik. So you see you're here now, and then you have a circle around, which is 1 kilometer. So people see very easily, okay, which paths are around them here. And then very important also, we were thinking of, should we have a new mobile app? Because then people were saying, there's already thousands of apps, do you need another one? But we said yes, because we need something that collects all the information, but only the important one, because there's so much that you can find in the area when you open Google Maps. But we wanted to have one thing where we can collect all the necessary and good information and only show the good paths and all the things together, and a very easy filter system also that you can easily find hiking trails or cafe, but it's only showing the cafes and restaurants, for example, that are part of the ARC 56 to ensure also high quality. But we also have made printed maps because we really want to make orientation easy for all generations. So we want to reach maybe the younger generation with the mobile app, but we also want, of course, printed maps. And we have our mobile application and also the maps in 4 languages, which is in German, in Swedish, in Polish, and in English. And that is also important for us, so everyone feels welcome, which is one of our important values. And then our mobile application is linked to our homepage, and there we have the same database, and there it's very easy to filter for accessibility. For example, you can see what is near public transport, so you don't need a car. You can see if you have a stroller, if you want to bring your baby, so you can filter after which paths, trails are accessible for that, or even which are tested for wheelchair, for example. So by that, we really want to reach all different people. And also in the app, you can filter after different levels of difficulty, like we explain how difficult the hiking path is, for example. But very important, we learned from an Austrian tourist expert, because you guys in Italy and Austria have done this very long, and they said guests want to have a beer with every hiking trail. We in Sweden say we want to have a fika, a coffee and a cake with every hiking trail. But people nowadays, if you want to bring nature closer to people that maybe not so close to nature yet, they really need the services and the restaurants and everything. So that's why we have created those hubs that I've talked about before, the green dots that you see. So in that sense, you can get out into the nature and really feel like you're alone out there with your kayak, but you can very easily come back to a spot again, find accommodation, find information also. So our member companies are located also on those spots. And that is the second big area that I want to talk about, which is the sustainable products and companies. So that is what I said, very, very important for us. And we have started directly when we started to build these connected coastal trails. We have also started to gather the local companies and really took them with us. They were part of the developing it, and they are owning it also because they are having the direct contact to the guests. So they know about the biosphere reserve, they can give information, they can give maps. And there's different, for example, rentals for kayaks, for bikes. There's cafes, accommodation, and also guides connected to us, because we in the Biosphere Reserve, we only have 2.5 people working here. So we need to have everyone helping us to bring nature to the people. And then we were working a lot with the companies with sustainability. And in the beginning, we were even meeting every month. And we created a guidebook for them for sustainability to have a shared language and a definition so they easily can start with their sustainability work. We created workshops. We even did a strategy together because for us it was very important to involve them so that they feel it's their strategy and not just we impose some sustainability rules for them. And we did some certification work also. And we did work a lot also with packages and product development. And of course, you can say maybe that's more about the tourism, but we think it's also important for people that are not so used to nature. They really want to have a package. They want to have maybe a car driving them around. They want to have a guided tour. They want to book it all together and not just find their way themselves. And as I said, the companies are really our ambassadors because they are in direct contact with the guests, provide information, and they're really proud of the ARC56. Otherwise, it would have never survived, I think, and come so big because they are spreading it all over our area. Here, for example, you see Mia, one of our member companies, and she has think about the environment on her little paper holder that you see in the circle and the ARC56 logotype. And then the third part was, of course, the marketing, because people have to also find their way here. So that was, of course, an important part of the whole thing. And as I said, the companies were part of it from the beginning. And we were discussing a lot, what is our values? How do we want to invite people here? What do we want to present about our home, but also make it in a way that doesn't destroy, but invite people that have the same values. And that's how we developed this brand, which we call the Connected Coastal Trails in the UNESCO Biosphere Reserve, ARC56. And we didn't call it Blekinge Archipelago Trails because we thought we need to have an easy name that is also possible for international guests to understand. And ARC56, you can say in every language. And the 56 is for our latitude. That's where we are located on the world. And then the arc is for our archipelago. So in a way, it's everything still the same as 5 years ago or 3 years ago when we started, but we packaged it in a way so that it would be easy for people to find the nicest spots and the nicest trails. And also in our app, for example, we talk a lot about where is the nice culture and nature spots and write about the biggest tree in the area and this different information. And then what we also thought was important, because we were discussing, do we need another homepage? But we made a very simple homepage that doesn't need much updating. But we thought it's important to have this homepage for the brand ARC56 and not just our Biosphere Reserve homepage, because the Biosphere Reserve homepage talks about all our different projects. We also have fishing project or foresting project, and that's maybe more for people that are really interested in sustainability. But other people that are a bit maybe not thinking so much about it, they may be attracted more of the just simpleness of ARC56. And by that, we can guide them into the sustainability world and have a bit access to many different kind of people. And as I said before, we have here also 4 different languages. And one thing that I think was very, very important from the beginning to think about how do we want to continue with this network of different trails so that it really is long lasting. So we worked with all the different organizations. You cannot understand anything here because it's Swedish, but just want to show that we gave different tasks to different organizations. Like, for example, the municipalities, they take care of keeping the trails in a good order and all the spots for barbecue and all the bridges and everything. The local marketing organization, they are taking care of the marketing with all the different municipalities together. The region is looking over the whole thing so that they make sure that everybody does their work. So that was important for us to have clear organization and also long-term contracts with everyone. Yeah, so where are we now? 3 years later after we launched this, and I must really say it has become very successful. ARC56 is well known among all local people, more known than our Biosphere Reserve Blekinge Archipelago, so that's a bit of a problem. But now we have also the possibility to reach all those people that know ARC56 and make them even more aware of that it's actually a biosphere reserve. So that is our work to do right now. There's a lot more people in nature. Of course, we had the pandemic. For us, it actually helped because people wanted to get out. So our mobile application and the maps really helped them to come out. But we really feel like, especially those paths that we have in our network, they have really increased by people. We've also done a study that showed, that interviewed 100 people that are using the mobile application, and that really said, they have been more in nature. They have found new spots that they would have never gone otherwise. The member companies, we started with 20. Now we have almost 80. Here it says doubled, but at the end of the project, it was 40. So, and they also really increased in their profit, and we have more all year round companies now. We have 25,000 downloads of our app. For what is still for us as a small region is a lot in 2.5 years. And we've even another municipality joining our biosphere reserve, just mainly also because of the ARC56 project that we did. But we have just started. So now we have a lot, as Roberta said, also a lot to continue to develop to really become an even more sustainable and inclusive outdoor destination. We're working now with the Global Sustainable Tourism Council to certify our area and work even more with the local companies, for example. But yes, that is so far what I wanted to share with you. Thank you so much for your attention, and I think there's more room in the end for asking questions.
Thank you very much, Simone. I like to recall one sentence you used. Everyone needs to feel welcome in ARC56. And I think that already some of us are thinking to visit ARC56, probably helping you with Italian translation for some of us, or some of us are Spanish translation. So I must remember participants that if you have questions for our speakers, feel free. There is a button, there is an option, it's called the question and answer. You can write there the questions for Roberta, Simone, and for Roberto too. We will go through the questions together later on, so each of our speaker can will reply to you. So feel free to write down. You can afterwards open your mic or the camera and reply. So let's move. Now we are gonna move a little bit more west. We are going to Spain, north of Spain. We are going to visit, thanks to our next speaker, Roberto Aperreta, the biosphere reserves Los Valles de Omana y Luna. And also we are going to know a little bit how NAB works and how we can help, and how specifically we can help if we focus on a thematic, on a theme, on something that can connect all of us, all the biosphere reserves may be dealing with mountain issues and challenges. So Roberto, it's not only a site manager of the biosphere reserve, so will give us a look, a view, an idea about the biosphere reserve and what's the situation of accessibility, inclusivity for all, but he will also, being in the joint working secretariat of the mountain network of biosphere reserve, will give us some ideas how to join the network and how the network could help also in subjects such as sharing experiences like today. Roberto, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Francesca, for your kind introduction. First of all, I'm gonna close my video because my internet connection is not very stable. Okay. So after the, I'm gonna share my screen also. Yeah. So after the interventions of Roberta and Simone, I'm kind of overwhelmed because they showed us a great examples of how to deal with accessibility in a certain territory. My stories are quite a bit different. I am going to talk to you about two different perspectives. First of all, from the perspective of a tiny biosphere reserve located in northern Spain. As Francesca said, is the Omaña y Luna Biosphere Reserve is in the Cantabrian Mountains, declared by UNESCO in 2005, and it's very interesting because it's an example of the nexus between Euro-Siberian and Mediterranean regions. And well, we have the presence of some of the most endangered species in the Iberian Peninsulas, Cantabric brown bear and Cantabric capercaillie. And it is a territory with a very high rural presence, but unfortunately, this rural patrimony is getting weaker and weaker day by day. We are facing a very strong depopulation. It's similar as many places in mountain areas in Europe and also in Spain, of course. For example, comparing Berlin and Omaña y Luna, we have the same extension, around 800 square kilometers. Berlin, 3.4 million inhabitants. Omaña y Luna, 3.4 inhabitants per square kilometer. If you compare with the average population density in the European Union, it's kind of another world, and similar to Lapland. Lapland, we are talking about 2-3 inhabitants per square kilometer. We are in the, it's a demographic desert. This is the entrance to Berlin, and this is the entrance, one of the entrance to Omaña y Luna Biosphere Reserve. But also it's a quite interesting place because we have the opportunity to celebrate some cultural events like this music festival. Well, we have already a gap of 2 years without celebrating it, but it's quite interesting with the presence of international musicians in a very tiny village. Just to show you how is the population how is the population distributed in the biosphere reserve. If you see these very tiny circles in the map, they are villages with less than 11 people. It's a territory very sparsely populated. You can see here the demographic pyramids. Is very aged people. The population is really an issue here. We got features of a peripheral region. Peripherality is an inverse function of potential accessibility. So we got here a really great problem to deal with. We got no railway stations. The biosphere reserve nowadays is only accessible by private transport, and although there is a public transport once per day, but it's not suitable for a normal living there. So if you want to visit this territory, you have to reach it by car, by your own car. There is as I said, a for public transport infrastructure. And the only thing is that we are about 1 hour, 1 hour and a half to the nearest city. And maybe this is the reason why so many people decided to leave this territory and to live in the city, and then maintaining the family houses there just for visiting them in summer or so. And we changed the perspective now. And I'm talking to you about the potentials. This tiny biosphere reserve was elected as a joint secretariat of the World Network of Mountain Biosphere Reserves. It's a very recent nomination because this network was created last December. It's very new. And we are dealing with the secretariat along with the Science Academy of Eco-Environmental Research of China, if I name it well. As you can see, well, it is in Spanish, sorry, but it's by common figures, 727 biosphere reserves in the world, 2,070 million people living there, and 469 mountain biosphere reserves have been identified now. So we represent as much as around 60% of the world network of biosphere reserves. So mountains and accessibility is gonna be a great issue to be dealt with within the network. As you say, mountains play a crucial life supporting role for humanity, valuable ecosystems, cultural patrimony, but we are very fragile and vulnerable territories, especially to global change and to climate change. I said that, okay. And okay, which are our main objectives? As you can see, foster research and collaboration between the biosphere reserves. Prioritize research for the territories rather than on the territories. Promote sharing of experiences and knowledge. I think this is one of the key points within the objectives, and also to establish strategic partnerships with other institutions in order to potentiate our capacities. Sorry. Okay, how this network can be useful for all. We can make visible specific problems as accessibility or the population or cultural erosion in mountain areas. We think that this network is an ideal framework for knowledge and best practices exchange. We also are thinking on the creation of specific working groups in the next months. So depending on which issues are of the main concern of the biosphere reserves within the network, these working groups will be created. Also allows us to a better understanding of the problems of mountain areas around the world, and also we think that it's also a very useful tool for attracting resources for specific projects. And how to apply to be a member of the network? It's very easy. First, you have to identify yourself as a mountain biosphere reserve. Next Thursday, we'll will celebrate the official presentation of the network. So maybe many of you are aware of this. If not, you can put in contact with your national focal point, or just write us, and I will send you the link for the inscription. And okay, I'm very, very happy to be with you today and looking forward to your comments or questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roberto. You've been more than on time. So plenty of time to go into questions and answer. So I know that our organization now is making possible for participants to use your own microphone, and also you can turn on the camera, you can raise hands and pose your questions. And I invite you, there is a sidebar on the and there is a specific button is called question and answer. You can write there your questions, and here we have our participants. So I ask Roberta, Simone, and Roberto if your camera is can deal with the data exchange. You can keep it on. If not, please keep it off. It's fine. So if you want to pose a questions, please raise hand. In the meanwhile, I have a question from my colleagues of the Office of the Science Unit. We are a field office is based in Venice, and regional, and we work on science and culture for Europe. We have a question for Roberta. So Roberta, it's linked a little bit on a project that we did together, and I guess someone from the Geopark was participating last year on the effect that the pandemic had towards the biosphere reserves and the geoparks, and how the community in that kind of project was for tourism, for a local producer, and for education, for schools, how they reacted. So my question to you is how the accessibility changed during the pandemic. And did you see a change of tourists and behaviors and so on? Did you change your offer? Over to you.
Thank you. Well, accessibility changed a lot. I mean, I'm thinking about the mobility project. The mobility project is usually based on two different services. So the parking part and the public transport part. The public transport part is the most used by people with disabilities, because you can leave your car in the center of the village and then you can move towards the valley wherever you want with a public bus, so you don't have any kind of problem. With pandemia, we had to stop all the public transport by buses. So this was a problem for them. I mean, as I told you before, we had some reserved part for people with disability, but it's not the same. You still have to have a family that maybe carry you if you don't have a proper car. So that's one of the points. The second point is about education. We were used to do educational project in school with children, as I told you before, because we want to raise awareness in local people and children about accessibility and safety. But with pandemic, we had to stop all the courses we were used to do with our internal guides. We tried to do something online, but it was not the same. We did, as I said, a course for our internal guides on accessible tourism in 2021. But with this online course, the practical part miss, and you cannot proper create something together. You get to know notion, but you cannot create. And so we hope that in this year we can start again with new courses and also new educational projects in school. And this year with mobility, we have again public transport with buses, so we can again try to give this service as an offer to our tourists. Instead, as a kind of tourism, what we noticed is the fact that we have Italian tourism here. Instead, in the past, we have more people from Germany, from Russia. Instead, in these two last summer, we had people from Rome, from Florence, or from all around Italy, but not from Europe. And we realized that from an accessible point of view, if we consider accessibility like information and how to reach us, we miss the part of English information, German information. So we realize that we have to work a lot on this part of accessibility. So not only for people with disability, but for people all in all, because if you don't speak Italian, it's difficult for you to understand where we are, what we do, what we are doing. And that's what we learn from pandemia.
Thank you, Roberta. I think that you learn and also you react, and that's the most important thing, that you also find out together with your community new ways in order to reach them and to propose in different way the activities you were already developing. And coming back to you, Simone, another question that we have in mind with our colleagues is you worked a lot in order to engage local community, and how you will keep their interest up. You will keep and you will continue to engage with them. And trying to make sure that they will always be enthusiasts in order to work with you and to be engaged in the Archipelago Biosphere Reserve.
Yes, thank you very much, Francesca. That is a very important question for us. I'm sorry, before when you talked to me, then exactly my internet stopped. So now I'm back and hope it works. But it was anyway a good timing at the end of my presentation. So we have noticed, since we have more people now in the trails, that the local people have started to complain a bit more. We've had some landowner that wanted us to change the path, and because he didn't want it anymore to have so many people. So we really know that we have to really work with some landowners that are not public owned, to really include them more and have some events for them and information for the local people, also showing them what we do for, like, for example, providing solution to more rubbish that have come up, so that we have really, we have to show the local people that we take this very serious, their concerns also. But also we really want to involve them in a positive way. So we have done now during the pandemic, when we couldn't meet, we did some social media where we tried to identify the best must-see spots that are a bit hidden. So we really had a campaign that everybody could give us some tips about their most beautiful spots, and we added them in the app, and did also translation for all those new 50 points. And then we really want to reach out more to families, because we see that we haven't reached enough to make it easy for children in nature. And I think that is very important. So we have done some events that was a bit, it worked even in the pandemic, because we did it on many different spots all along the routes with small events and small activities. So that we have done in the autumn and in the spring now, and we will continue to have some annual event that also prolongs the season, that we call Love the Spring and Love the Autumn.
Thank you very much, Simone. There is a question from a dear participant, Yara Maria. It's a question for all of you. So I will ask all of you to reply to these questions. So she would like to, she says, I understand that the infrastructure you provide tries and is always environmentally friendly. And is it really environmentally friendly? So the question is, how do you treat plastic, for example, and how do you treat waste in general in your biosphere reserve? Question for everybody. So I'll ask maybe Roberta to start, then we go to Simone, and then to Roberto.
Okay. Yes, actually, we have a project known as Plastic Free Project, and is addressed to all our infrastructure around the territory, also for huts in the mountain. And they sign with us a contract, so they ensure that they are not using plastic bottle for water anymore. So they are selling like I cannot remember the name in English, borrache. Anyway, they are not selling plastic bottles anymore, and they are not using plastic like plates or glasses anymore. So that's the first step we did towards environmentally friendly behaviors. When I say that our infrastructure, like the park houses, are accessible friendly, I mean that they comply with the national and regional law for accessibility and safety. As to environmentally water bottle, thank you. Instead, as to the environmental stuff, in our houses, we are selling gadgets that are all made with environmental friendly stuff. They are like bags for shopping, or they are books and handbook, and they are made of recycled water or recycled plastic. So this is our efforts towards this.
Thank you, Roberta. Simone, would you like to tell us how you treat plastic and waste in general?
Yes, thank you very much. We have been discussing, because you said first about the infrastructure, so we have been discussing a lot about, for example, which wood we use for the signposts, the marking, and then we decided it's important for us to use oak, preferably from the southern Sweden. It wasn't always possible, and not using some wood from some rainforest or something. So that was important, to use as much as possible local material when we're building, but still also long-lasting material, so we don't have to replace it very much, even if the cost first is a bit higher, but then we think it's still worth it in the long run. And when it comes to waste, we are still working on it. We have not found the total solution, but we really have done a strategy with all our companies, member companies, that we want to have zero waste, a bit like Roberta said, that we want to have as least possible waste in the area, and also both in the sense that we inform the people that they cannot leave any rubbish, but also now we have made new rubbish bags. We actually had to do them in recycled plastic because we wanted to use those that are that degrade, but unfortunately they only last 1 year. So when we wanted to buy a big amount of it, then they would have already degraded before we could have given them to people. So that is difficult decisions. But in the end, we used recycled plastic for those bags, but they should be given by all companies to their guests. And they say that people should, when they're out there, even pick up rubbish that is not theirs. So we encourage them to pick rubbish and have that as a fun and important task while you're out there. So we provide that to all our member companies in small bags, and then they come the plastic bags in that. So a guest can just take one or several. It comes in rolls. So that was one project that we have done, for example. And then we want to inform as much as possible via our mobile app and homepage also about the rubbish problem. And we do also some beach cleaning projects with the municipalities, but also with the local people, and informing about the problem, especially with the sea. It's very important not to have plastic in the sea, right? So we are trying to raise awareness about that also.
Thank you, Simone. Roberto, do you have any way of infrastructure and way of recycling the waste and so on? Something already, or something in the plan of the biosphere reserve?
Okay. About infrastructure, little thing to say because we don't have such a problem. And related to waste, okay, this is a great issue here, because although waste, not waste management, but waste, the generation of waste is one of the core issues within our awareness and educational programs. Here in the Biosphere Reserve, we don't have waste separation because our regional administrations, our regional administration considers that with this very low population density, some services are not worth to be delivered. So we are talking about transport, we are talking about the schools, we are talking also talking about waste management. So it's a great problem here, and we are struggling with that, but we know that our capacities are what they are. So we are fighting with the higher instances, but I hope the sustainability will open its way.
And I also think that being part of this network of Biosphere Reserve, Mountain Biosphere Reserve, will also push in this way. So will help you to get inspiration and ideas.
I hope so, yeah.
Okay.
I hope so.
And coming back on the theme of the webinar, accessibility, we have questions from Anna. She's asking, this is open to everybody, maybe who wants from you to start or who wants to reply. The question is, do you have some ideas of the numbers, some pictures of the numbers of the number of tourists with disabilities that visit your Biosphere Reserve every year, and how do you have this? How do you get this number if you have an idea? Somebody would like to start, or would like to try to reply to this question?
In our case, 0. We have no idea.
But maybe we can learn from the Geopark, Adamello Brenta, or from the Archipelago, Blanking.
Yeah, I'm sure Roberto has better answers here. We are still struggling also with measuring just the number of visitors, since we are a big area within 3 municipalities, and we are trying different technologies now with mobile phone, how many mobile phones are in different areas, but we have not, unfortunately, specific data of how many people are on which spots. But I know you have another webinar on that, so that is also a very important topic for us, how we can measure better the participants. So I hand over to Roberta.
Well, as to activities, the number of people with disability that took part is about 15 maximum, but most of the time they are all people from the association I was talking about, the AMPAS Association, and so it's still that group. As instead, the number of people that park, we have the number of people that park into the reserve parking I was talking before about. In 2020, so during pandemic, we had about 1,500 cars with people with disability that had parked. Instead, last year we were about 2,000, and also in 2019 we had about 2,000 cars parked in the reserved seated. So for the mobility project, we had number, but we do not have an idea of people with disability that visited actually the park each summer or each year. We just had the number of people that parked.
And how do you know that if somebody is standing there counting, or do you have a camera there, or?
No, actually, we had each summer we employed a number of 60, 70 guys from our area, and they work for us during summer, starting from June till October, and they work in the valley, inside the valley, and they help us with the parking side and the mobility public transport side. So they help people giving information, but they also make them parking and paid, because the park is you have to pay to park. But if you have like the certification of disability, it's free for you. So they sign the number of people with disability or the number of local people, because it's free also for local people. And this is the reason why we have all the number of mobility.
And that links with another question that we have from the colleagues that I'm reading. So the question is like, if there is a kind of way of monitoring the fluctuations of tourists, if there is a way, maybe an app or maybe something that we could map, maybe looking from the area where they come from, or for example, where they went through, or which specific points of the biosphere reserve they visited, also to see what is the top and the last, or the easiest to visit or not. Do you have a kind of idea of this, let's say, flow of tourists?
Regarding Parco Naturale Damello Brenta, yes, we develop a system of statistic analysis, and each year we write down a statistic specific to each valley. So we know that in Val di Tove there were let's say 8,100 people, and there were 600 car parked on that day, or on that day 100 people took the public bus to reach that point. And this helps us to understand which are the most, let's say, famous spots. Like Tove Lake, it's one of the most difficult valley for us, because we have so much people that wants to go there by private cars, that we have at a certain point to stop the street, to stop the traffic jam, and to say no car anymore, just public transport. And this helped us. What then we did again 2 years ago, we create an online platform to book the private park or the public transport. So we have a fixed idea before the day start or before the weekend of how many people we will reach that spot or that valley on that day.
Thank you, Roberta. So then I have a question for Roberto, because Roberto, after those presentations, hearing the experiences from the geopark and hearing the experiences from Bekinje archipelago, and knowing that your biosphere reserve needs help, needs a little bit of capacity building, where do you think you can start? Where would you like to focus in order to make it more accessible and more and take care of inclusivity for everybody? So not only for tourists with disability, but for everybody, in order to reach the biosphere reserve, Roberto.
Okay, thank you for the question. First of all, I liked very much both the vision both of Bekinje Archipelago and Damello Brenta, of creating a vision towards accessibility. And we think we have to think on accessibility in a higher level, as I said, and we have to break the vicious cycle of fewer people, fewer resources, fewer people, fewer resources. We have to put that on the table and get maybe more strength to deal with the administration. And I liked very much the example of Damello Brenta of working specifically towards making mountain more accessible to disabled people through adapted infrastructure of specific training for guides. I think is great. And also I liked very much the experience of Bekinje Archipelago. I love your brand. I love it. I found very interesting the mobile application of with this capacity depending on the profile of each visitant. So I think they are two great examples of how to deal with accessibility in different ways.
Thank you very much, Roberto. I really like too as well the brand of ARC 56, even though I heard that there is the problem that not many local people then identify the ARC 56 with the biosphere reserve. So then you need to go back to make them aware about the belonging to the biosphere reserve. Okay, so we are coming back towards the end of our webinar. But I want our participants that are still with us, I can see still 20 people that are hearing us, so they are still interested. I want them to go away with one take-home message from each of you, something they can take and then can try to apply, something they can really, something that they can take and that gives actions to them. So please, which is your take-home message in the context of accessibility and inclusivity, reminding that is a duty, is a right, and is an objective for the biosphere reserves within the UNESCO program, within the UN, is a part of the SDGs of Agenda 2030, is Objective 11. So this is something that we must take into consideration within our program. So the floor is yours. Who wants to start with your take-home message? Maybe Simone.
Yeah, thank you so much, Roberto and Francesca, that you like our brand. And thank you so much, Roberta, because I think it was also very beautiful, your first vision with that nature is so important for everyone to heal and to learn. And I think, like you say, Roberto, it's so important to have a strong vision, because it's such a privilege to be able to work with bringing people into nature, because I think that's such an important way to change people to become more sustainable. But what I would like to give to everyone, especially also for those that have long time had tourism and outdoor tourism and have thousands of trails, I think it needs to be very simple, like a simple overview of what is maybe the nicest trails or the top 10 easiest trails, or a very easy overview of where is the trails located. Because sometimes when I go to spots with many hiking trails, I get overwhelmed by many possibilities and a big homepage that shows thousands of trails. So I think it's good to try to make it simple for people that are not so used to outdoor, like give them a simple overview over where they can start maybe.
Thank you, Simone. Roberto, floor is yours for your take-home message.
Sorry, Francesca, you said Roberto or Roberta?
Roberto.
Ah, okay.
Let's go with gender balance. I always try to balance.
Okay, my message is, I'm sorry. Okay, my message is very, very simple. I would like to help to make mountains great places to visit, and also great places for living in. And I hope to be working on that for the next months or years. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Roberto. So, and also, I think that another message that we must send to everybody is join the network of Biosphere Reserve, Mountain Biosphere Reserve. So we have in the chat the information about the meeting. We have the time. There is a link of subscription. So if you are interested in hearing a little bit more about this thematic network of the MAB program, please register and let's hear how we can work together. And then the floor goes to Roberta, that overwhelmed us with all the activities that Geopark is doing and is planning to do. So Roberta, out of your experience, what is your take-home message for our participants?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity you gave us, because maybe it seems that we are doing so much, or we are arrived, as in Italian we said, but it's not like this. We have really so much still to do. And in comparing with also my colleagues from other biosphere, we realize that we have so much to do in the field of communication and also in the field of choosing what we want to say. As Simone was saying before, we are overwhelming everyone. It's a feature of Italian people maybe, but we have to start learning how to deal and how to communicate first of all. And then what we have to do, it's maybe to widen our links with other association, because we are doing accessibility, but just with the same association, with the same local association. Instead, we would like to improve a bit our way of cooperating, and maybe starting also to deal with other realities, maybe also in Europe or in Rome or in Sicily. It's maybe a problem we have here in the north. We are used always to stay in our locality and in our territory, but we have to be compared and we have to get to know new realities to improve. We do not have to stop improving and developing, because there are so many resources in everyone, and we are privileged to work with nature, but everyone should have the privilege to experience this nature. So thank you to everyone and hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Roberta. So I had the honor to moderate, and I had the honor to close this second webinar of the Proud to Share Week, which is organized by the Alpi Ledrensi Giudicaria Biosphere Reserve in Italy. This is part of a full week of thematic days dedicated each one to a different theme. Yesterday, we went through the impact of climate change in biosphere reserves and how they are trying through projects, through activities to face the challenges. Today, together with you, we looked at how to be accessible and inclusive for everybody, every kind of tourist. And tomorrow, I invite participants that wish to be with us live, same time for a specific webinar. It won't be moderated by me, so I will hand over to another colleague from UNESCO headquarters. There will be a webinar dedicated to outdoor disciplines, ways of discovering the material and immaterial culture of the area. And there will be speakers from Sweden, from Mura Drava Danube, and from Andorra, Ordino. On Thursday, there will be the last webinar of this cycle. This will be dedicated to a very important subject as well. Today we mentioned too, tourist care capacity. So managing the needs of your territory while ensuring also the conservation of the habitats, which is part of the message of the equilibrium that we should have between the man and the biosphere reserve. And we will have guests from the webinars, Austria, Germany, and the UK, North Devon Biosphere Reserve. So after saying this, I thank you all for your attention, for being with us. And I thank you for opportunity given to us from the Regional Bureau for Science and Culture in Europe of UNESCO to be with you here. I hope we will have future ways of collaborating together, maybe some activities, maybe joint network, maybe some projects together in order to make more peer learning and learn from each other and do something together. So thank you very much and good luck for the next webinars. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
So
Bye.
Thank you.
bye bye. Hej då.
Hej då.
Bye bye.